About dogs that have never been around lambing, this will be our very first time lambing. Yeah, that's another one. You really got to be on your toes. And we're going to have most of these puppies when lambing season hits. So what we're kind of throwing in the air is we might kick all the pups into some netting with the rams for whatever 2-3 weeks to let the lambs get up a little bit of size. Because during lambing, there's blood from afterbirth. There's new little creatures. They follow anything that's around. There's so little
too. Like when a lamb is born, if nobody's been around them, like I could hold one in the palm of my hand. That's how small they are.
Tiny. It's crazy.
Yeah, but they're after within a week of being born, they're impossible to catch. Mm-hmm. So you just need that little bit of period of time for them to get their feet under them and be a little more, not quite as fragile. And then we turn the dogs back in. We're not totally sure with that yet, but it's really more like you were suggesting. It could become a huge wreck during lambing season. It's the trickiest time to have dogs is during lambing season.
If you've got 1 dog, 2 dogs, something that's manageable, like last spring, we left all the dogs in there, and there was a couple of the dogs. They were kind of smelling on that afterbirth, and we would watch them, and they weren't harassing the sheep, and so we just make sure you stay on them, make sure they're not gonna harm the sheep. So yeah, and if you get
you get an old ewe that she's been around the block, she'll just go after the dogs if they come too close, boom. Just crack them, and the dogs are like, what the hell is going on? And so they get the message really quickly once they get knocked a couple times by one of those older ewes. It's those younger ewes that are maybe first, second time mothers or whatever.
No clue what's going on.
They're just like, da-da-da. Oh, there's a dog, I'm gonna run away. And then they're lambs have no idea what they're doing, and they're just hanging out, and the dog's sniffing around on them. They start to run, and the dog starts to run, and then the dog tries to tackle and play with the sheep or the lamb, and then the lamb dies. They're that fragile when they're first born. So
and the dogs aren't meaning to be predators.
No, for the most part.
They're just friendly. They're curious and they're playful. Especially puppies. Puppies are the worst. And
so maybe you just have to spend more time, sitting on because you don't want to be in with the sheep during lambing season, but you need to just be a lot more vigilant of the dogs during lambing season. So if you could sit on a hill or nearby or whatever, not in with the sheep, and just sort of monitor the dogs a little bit more, that might not be a bad idea.
Maybe for a day in the middle of heavy lambing season, you put some shock collars on your dogs and you sit there, and if they act up, you really shock them, and that might be
the only
way to curb it.
The only thing with the shock collars is that you can't just shock them for 5 minutes while you're in there moving the sheep. Because
you gotta sit there.
It's an inconsistent message. The important part is if you're gonna break them like that, you every time they go after a sheep or do something wrong, it has to be consistent for that to work. So something to keep in mind. We don't use shock collars. It's just something that
thought about.